morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Your Spirit, Your Business. I actually say good morning. It's actually afternoon where I am, but if it is morning where you are, good morning to you. Hope everybody's doing fantastic. It has been some time since we've been on this podcast. Of course, you know all the world's events that are happening today have really sort of seemingly, and I say seemingly because I know it's not something that is completely permanent, as the good old book shall say, this too shall pass. You know, I think a lot of it has just been kind of a surprise, kind of overwhelming in the sense that, you know, it's interesting to see everything develop the way that it has. It's interesting to see how people are reacting in different ways. And, you know, I find that a lot of this is really an opportunity to build so much character, to really be thankful and grateful for the many blessings that we have, because the unfortunate thing, and I speak for myself included, but I think with a lot of America, North America, a lot of Western countries, we get so fortunate and so blessed with so much that we kind of just get used to it. And all of a sudden, we get so used to it, we get so used to it that then it just kind of becomes this thing we just expect to have, right? And once we expect to have it, we kind of are no longer grateful for that or acknowledge that blessing as much as we can until something like this happens. So that I find to be so interesting. But the main thing I want to talk about today on this episode is just understanding that God's economy, Spirit's economy, is unaffected by world's conditions, right? Spirit's economy is unaffected by the stock market. It's unaffected by the real estate market. It's unaffected by all these things that really keep people in a state of flux when it comes to being stressed out. And so that's why it is so very important, and I learned this so many years ago, that you must make Spirit your financial source. You must make Spirit. I've even read something last week that was so amazing. I forget this lady's name, but she said, when I decided to quit my job, the main thing I wanted to do was I wanted to make God my boss, which meant he was going to pay me what he felt I deserved, and he was going to pay me regardless of what was happening. And so the reason why this is so important, you know, we have to be reminded of this, and this is why I'm so happy to be able to do this podcast, is that the laws of the universe don't change when there's a crisis, right? They don't change when there's a pandemic. They don't change when there's a depression. They don't change when 80% of the world is going absolutely bananas because of the fear that they're experiencing. You know, a podcast yesterday, actually a church I used to go to, some really, really amazing people. They had a guest speaker on there, and he basically said, and I just love this, he said, remember that God isn't on lockdown. And I just love that, because that means God is still free. God is still working. God is everything that we could need. God is everything that we could desire. God is everything we could want at all times, right? That is the nature of Spirit. So the stipulation comes in for us is we have to have faith, okay? We have to have faith in that idea, in that truth, in order for us to thrive. Because once again, universal laws, Spirit's ability to help you is not affected by worldly conditions. You have to know that. I'll say it again. Spirit's ability to help you, to provide, to work through you, work in you, around you, is not affected by worldly conditions, right? So the first thing we have to do is we've got to recenter ourselves in this dynamic essence of divine love. We have to recenter ourselves, because if we recenter ourselves in that love, all of a sudden we move back into a state of ease and we understand, okay. And breathing is a big part of that, super big part of that. We realize, okay, God is still on the throne. Spirit is still working with us and through us and in us. This is fine. Everything's going to be all right. And I caught backlash for saying that coronavirus is a blessing, but you know what? I can't help it. I can't help it, because all it's doing is making me aware of the blessings that I've already had. It's making me more aware of the things that I need to transcend in order to go to where I need to go. And it's also allowing me to still manifest things that I need to manifest in order to be the very best that I can be. And that's what I choose to focus on. And anybody else tries to tell me differently, I don't buy it, because once again, and my desire is that this gets planted into your subconscious mind. Spirit, the ability for Spirit to help you and to provide for you and to work through you is not contingent upon world's conditions or world's economy. The world's economy is not God's economy, right? So when it comes to God, everything is still in a thriving state, right? Takes me back to 2008. 2008 was so interesting because 2008 was a depression. It was a financial depression. And what happens? Just like now, people start running to the banks. They want to take out all their money. They want to stick it in mattresses, and all of a sudden their houses catch on fire. I mean, I don't know that to be true, but it's kind of like what happens with fear. You're so rooted in fear, all of a sudden you burn the very thing you want to keep. And so much happens. So once again, the majority of the world contracts and really just kind of braces for impact, more or less in a spiritually pugilistic form. And they find themselves wondering why things aren't going to get better. And it all has to do with the idea of the type of dominant thoughts and feelings, more so feelings and emotions that you generate, are going to shape your life. Okay? And in this case, the case of this podcast, they're going to shape your business. All right? So and sometimes, I'm not saying that you have to be stone-faced, full of faith, but honestly, use as much faith as you have inside you to understand and to know that Spirit always will and is going to continue to take care of you when you tap in to that faith. Okay? You tap into that faith, Spirit is going to be there to guide you, to lead you, to prosper you, even in times of adversity. And I just know that, and I've been believing that ever since this thing has happened, ever since the day this thing occurred. I've told myself that I can still prosper no matter what. I can still prosper in God's economy, in business, in life, in everything. It does not matter what is happening in the world. I just have to keep my focus on the true source. And who's the true source? Spirit is the true source. God is the true source of all things, not your clients, not the people you want to buy your stuff, not, the IRS, not any of these people. God is your source. Remember that, right? So once we really have that in our consciousness, it can become our consciousness no matter what. And one of the biggest things you want to do is just stay away from as much negativity as you can. I get it, watching the news and, trying to see everything that's going on and whatnot and what people are up to and what they're doing. That's fine. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, don't allow it to take down your vibration, because if your vibration starts to sink, then it's easy for fear and anxiety and worry to cramp in. And when fear and anxiety and worry cramp in, there can be no faith. There can be no trust. There can be no divine truth ready to reveal to you all the things that you need to do in order to continually thrive. And for me, I think like the most amazing thing is just really beginning to see and to understand that nothing outside of ourselves has to affect us, right? Nothing outside of ourselves has to affect us unless we allow it to. It doesn't have to affect our business unless we allow it to, okay? That's all to it. Just make up your mind. Find a power of decision. Find a power of decision. Make up your mind that this is not going to affect you. This is not going to cause you to feel like you can't live your life to the fullest, because if that was the case, then guess what? The entire spiritual realm will fall apart. It will fall apart. You got to understand, the spiritual realm, the realm of God I'm talking about, the realm of source, is not affected. It's not affected by the world's economy, the world's conditions. It's just not. So when you tap into that through meditation, when you tap into that through focusing on your breathing, when you tap into that through taking quiet time and uplifting yourself and resonating in a vibration of love, guess what? You're going to be the one receiving the ideas to elevate yourself at a time when people are at their most fearful, right? And it's important to know that something like this, is what we prepare ourselves for. This is why we go into spirituality. This is why we go into things like science of the mind and the unity teachings and law of attraction and all that stuff, all types of metaphysical things. We do that so we know that we are equipped to face anything and to come out still feeling filled with peace and joy and optimism, right? Came up with this concept recently called masterful optimism. And it's just basically thinking the best, feeling the best, honoring the best in your life, no matter what it is, no matter what it looks like. Because guess what? It's all neutral until we decide. It's all neutral. And the best thing you can do is not to expose yourself to something that's going to take that gift of neutrality and throw it in the trash of negativity, right? Feed your mind with stuff that raises you up. Feed your mind with stuff that makes you feel your best. Listen to music. Listen to affirmations. Connect within. Honestly, you could take a moment and stop and just touch your heart and allow yourself to feel that divine essence that's still keeping you alive, that still wants you to enjoy your life regardless of what's happening on the outside. And this is the attitude you got to take. And you want to take that attitude right into your business. And the reason why I hadn't talked so much about business now, because when something like this happens, your business is just reflecting your life. It's just reflecting you. People don't pay you, right? And this is so very important for every entrepreneur. People don't pay you. And the great thing is it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. It just doesn't. They don't pay you what they think you're worth. They pay you what you think you're worth, right? People do not pay you according to what they think you're worth. They pay you according to what you think you're worth. So in knowing that, don't feel like you got to drop your prices. Don't feel like you have to cower back in fear. Don't get desperate. Don't just remember, stand in your truth. Stand in divine truth and divine love and understand that the world's economy can't affect spirit's economy. So even if this person doesn't work out, there's somebody out there that will pay you what it is that you're desiring. And I promise you, you can thrive during this time. It's just setting your mind, your heart, your soul, your spirit in alignment and trusting, one, most importantly, that spirit is your source. And two, that you're going to have faith that everything has already worked out, is already working out, is going to continue to to work itself out. And from there, you can only manifest what you're placing into the mirror of life. That's the beauty of it. If you're putting optimism the whole time, guess what? You're going to receive things to be optimistic about. If you're putting gratitude, you're going to receive things to be grateful about. If you're putting success, if you're putting prosperity, abundance, if you're putting a thriving business in your conscious mirror, basically your thoughts and your feelings, your emotions, and it's reflecting that out into the world, that is what is going to happen, and it is universal law. And universal law does not fail, even if the world's falling apart. Universal law does not fail. It can't, right? The universe would crumble if it did. It thrives. It's perfect. It works under all conditions. And that right there, my friends, is the most important aspect of everything, is realizing that these laws will continue to work regardless of who says this, who says that, who says this is going to be this way or that way. No, you decide. You get to decide. You get to make the decision whether or not you're going to live in fear or live in love, whether you're going to prosper or you're going to fall back down to poverty consciousness, whether you're going to continue to change people's lives and be a giver and be generous and reap the benefits, or if you're just going to be selfish and kind of keep to yourself and not do anything for anybody. You always have to decide. The universe is just set up to respond to whatever you give it. So in knowing that you always have a choice, it's a no-brainer. Choose to thrive, not only in your business, but thrive in your life, right? If you keep your mind, your heart, your spirit focused on source, source will continually make a way. Always, 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 it will continually make a way. Let's say if you're running a business and all of a sudden your clients have fallen off a bit. Source can make it to a point to where you can receive one client that's going to pay you the amount that was more than the 3 or 4 that you lost. Or let's say, you have products out and, your product stops selling, but then all of a sudden an opportunity comes along where you can coach somebody through this crisis, and the amount of money that you get from coaching winds up being more, 2, 3, 4, 5 times as more as the products we're bringing you. The main thing here is just being open, right? It's just being open. And if you're open to it, then things can happen, and things can happen miraculously, right? So we set the intention. We know what it is that we are keeping our state of being, or where we're keeping ourselves in our state of being, which is faith, which is divine trust, which is divine truth, which is love, divine love. And then after setting the intention, we just wait for spirit to move. We wait for source to move us into the very divinely selected position that keeps us thriving and prospering and being abundant through a time where, if you look on the outside, it looks like there's a lot of lack. And that's all you have to do, and you will thrive. Personally, you will thrive in business. You will thrive in every single area as long as you're making spirit your source, as long as you're understanding that you're in God's economy, not the world's economy. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. As always, it is a heck of a pleasure each time. We will talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.